In this village there existed a very powerful tradition. This tradition dictated that the eldest daughter must marry before the youngest, no matter the circumstances. Once upon a time, there lived a man named Obi, his wife Amara, and their two daughters, Betty and Becky. Becky, the youngest of the two, was known for her hard work, beauty, humility, and respectfulness, earning her love from everyone in the village. On the other hand, Betty, the eldest daughter, was quite the opposite. She was rude and arrogant, often showing disrespect to those older than her. Mr. Obi and his family resided in a modest house in a cuckoo village. In this village there existed a very powerful tradition. This tradition dictated that the eldest daughter must marry before the youngest, no matter the circumstances. Even if Becky found someone willing to marry her, she had to put her own happiness on hold and wait for her elder sister to marry first, even if it took years. This tradition instilled fear in many villagers, as it had been upheld for decades, causing women to lose their chances of marriage and men to lose potential wives. Becky, the youngest, was adored by her mother, Amara, while Betty, the eldest, was cherished by her father, Obi. Their bond was so strong that some people began to suspect there was more to their relationship. Sometimes Becky would ask her mother, Amara, if Obi was truly her biological father. "Mother," she'd inquire, "is Obi really my biological father? I can't understand why he seems to love Betty more than me." Amara's heart sank at her daughter's question. "Oh, my beloved daughter," she reassured. "Your father loves you both dearly, but I think he struggles with how close and friendly you are with people. You know your father likes to be in charge, and he might expect his daughters to be like him. Unfortunately, you are just like me, my dear. Don't change for anyone, not even your father," Amara urged, seeing the concern in Becky's eyes. "Being kind and friendly is a wonderful trait. It's just that your father prefers a different approach." "But mother," Becky persisted, "being nice shouldn't make a difference. I can't understand why Daddy acts this way." Amara sighed, feeling the weight of Becky's confusion. "Your father wasn't always like this," she admitted. "I don't know what caused him to change." Becky listened, absorbing her mother's words. "Enough about your father," Amara said with a playful smile, trying to lighten the mood. "My beautiful darling, I can't wait for you to get married and give me 6 grandchildren." Becky's eyes widened in disbelief. "Mother, are you serious right now?" she exclaimed. 6 children in this hard economy. 2 is enough for me." They both laughed, finding humor in the conversation despite its seriousness. One sunny day, as Becky set out for the market to buy foodstuffs for her family's meals, a handsome young man caught her eyes. He walked past her, then turned and smiled. Politely excusing himself, he approached her and introduced himself as Raymond, the son of Chief Matthew. "I have seen Chief's other children, but I don't think I know you," Becky said. Raymond smiled and explained, "That's because I left for the city with my aunt when I was just 7 years old." Understanding now, Becky nodded and remarked, "Ah, I see. That's why we haven't met before. So, you're the chief's son. They say lives in the city." "Yes, that's me," Raymond replied, smiling. Teasingly, Becky joked, "So, you're all grown up now, huh?" Raymond laughed and replied, "See who's talking. It's me and your elder sister who are age mates." They shared a laugh, and before going their separate ways, Raymond expressed his feelings, telling her how much he liked her and expressing his desire for them to be more than just friends. They parted ways, promising to meet again soon. The following day, as Becky was returning from the farm alone, she was surprised to see Raymond waiting for her. They exchanged smiles as they greeted each other. "Becky," Raymond began, his voice filled with sincerity, "I think I have fallen deeply in love with you." Becky was taken aback. "Isn't it too early for this? I mean, we just met yesterday," she responded. Raymond shook his head gently. "I have heard so much about you while I was in the city," he explained. "My parents have spoken highly of you," he continued, I tried to find a wife in the city, but I couldn't find anyone who captured my heart. They were all after my money. That's why my parents advised me to come to the village. They told me there was a girl here who possessed all the qualities I was looking for. My parents have said so many good things about you, how humble, beautiful and respectful you are. And when I first saw you, I immediately knew they were right. I fell in love with you from the moment I laid my eyes on you. Becky, please don't say no. I just want to spend the rest of my life with you. Raymond's heartfelt words left Becky speechless for a moment. She looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and affection reflected in them. Raymond, I'm flattered, Becky finally replied, her voice soft. But I'm still trying to process everything. It's all happening so fast. Raymond nodded understandingly. I know it's sudden, Becky, but sometimes, when you know, you just know. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Becky felt her heart flutter at his words. I need some time to think about this, she admitted, but I promise to give it serious consideration. Raymond smiled warmly. Take all the time you need, Becky. I'll be here waiting for you. With a grateful smile, Becky bid Raymond farewell and continued on her way home. A few weeks later, after much consideration, Becky finally accepted Raymond's proposal, and they officially began dating. However, their joy was short-lived when Raymond surprised Becky by expressing his readiness to marry her and take her with him to the city after the wedding. Becky was taken aback by Raymond's sudden proposal and felt torn. Should she say yes or no? She couldn't ignore the fact that her elder sister, Betty, was still unmarried. Plus, Raymond soon realized that there was an existing tradition in their village that forbids the youngest daughter from getting married before the eldest. Despite these challenges, Becky couldn't deny her love for Raymond, and she accepted his proposal, ignoring the sacred tradition. However, deep down, she knew that their decision might not be well received by everyone in the village, most especially her father. When Becky returned home, she hesitantly shared the news with her mother, Amara, hoping for her support and understanding. But instead of the expected joy, their happy moment turned into a moment of sadness. Amara couldn't help but worry about breaking tradition and the potential disapproval from Becky's father, Mr. Obi, who had never shown much interest in Becky's life choices. When Raymond told his parents about his decision to marry Becky, they listened carefully. Then, they reminded him of an ancient tradition in their village. They explained that the father of the bride-to-be holds the key to whether the tradition of the eldest daughter marrying first would be upheld. If he insisted on this tradition, then the man involved would have to marry both daughters, the eldest and the youngest. Raymond was surprised to hear about this. It made him realize the potential complexities ahead. He understood that if Becky's father, Mr. Obi, held firm to this tradition, then he would need to marry both sisters to honor it. Finally, Raymond's family decided to ask for Becky's hand in marriage. When they got to Becky's family house, Mr. Obi insisted that Raymond must marry his eldest daughter first according to tradition. Despite feeling saddened by this, Raymond knew he had no choice. He couldn't bear the thought of losing his love, Becky, to another man. So, the marriage arrangements proceeded according to Mr. Obi's wishes, and Raymond ended up marrying both sisters. As the marriage ceremony concluded, Raymond took both Becky and Betty to the city with him. Upon arriving in the city, Becky was taken aback by the immense wealth her husband possessed. She couldn't hide her surprise as she asked, "My dear husband, how come you never told me you were this rich? I thought you were just an average young man." Raymond smiled lovingly and replied, "All this wealth is for you, my dear wife." Overwhelmed with emotion, they shared a moment of joy as they embraced each other tightly, grateful for the journey they had embarked on together. 2 months later in the city, Raymond had shown no interest in Betty, who was actually a few months older than him. Betty, witnessing Raymond's wealth and how caring he was towards her younger sister, Becky, she vowed not to leave him no matter how poorly he treated her. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving this luxury lifestyle she has always dreamed of while she was in the village. Just because Raymond chose to love her sister more, she vowed to do everything within her power to make sure that Raymond would love her more than her younger sister. When Raymond returned from work one day, Becky shared the news of her pregnancy with him. Overjoyed, Raymond couldn't contain his excitement. He callously remarked to Betty, "You see, my real wife is pregnant. So, can you please tell me how much I should pay you so you can leave us alone in peace?" Betty, furious at Raymond's insensitive words, snapped back, "Raymond, who do you think you are to try to buy me with your money? Tradition is tradition, and you can't change that. We are already married, and you need to accept that. The sooner you understand that, the better it will be for all of us." With those words, she stormed off, realizing the seriousness of the situation and the consequences of following the sacred tradition. While inside her room, crying, Betty called her father and told him everything that had been happening, how Raymond hadn't touched her since they came to the city, and she even disclosed that Becky was pregnant. Mr. Obi became furious upon hearing this. He exclaimed, "What if she gives birth to a male child? No, this can't happen, not while I'm still alive." He instructed Betty to come immediately to the village so he could find a solution for her. The next morning, Betty quietly left for the village. Upon her arrival, she found her mother absent, as she had gone to the market. When Mr. Obi saw Betty, he reassured her not to worry, as he claimed to have a solution to her problems. He promised that after this, Raymond would love no other except her. Betty was filled with excitement upon hearing this news. Mr. Obi then took his daughter to a native doctor, who provided her with 2 liquid substances, one for Raymond and the other for Becky. After leaving the native doctor's shrine, Betty returned to the city feeling happy. However, upon Betty's return to the city, Becky noticed a surprising change in her sister's behavior. Betty began to act kindly and draw closer to Becky, which was unusual given their strained relationship. When Becky expressed her surprise, Betty assured her that she had changed and wanted to mend their relationship. Betty then surprised Becky by revealing that she already knew about Becky's pregnancy, even though Becky hadn't told her yet. This revelation left Becky feeling vulnerable and unsure, as she hadn't intended to share the news so soon. Becky couldn't help but wonder about Betty's true intentions and what her sudden change in behavior might mean for their relationship. When Raymond returned from work, Becky couldn't help but ask him if he had told Betty about her pregnancy. To her surprise, Raymond admitted, "Yes, I did. I thought it might make her leave." Becky felt uneasy about her husband's decision, but tried to brush it off, saying, "Well, it's okay. Maybe she's changed now anyway." Raymond, looking puzzled, asked, "Really? What happened? How come?" Becky responded, "I think my parents talked some sense into her." Raymond, his expression turning sour, declared, "I don't care if she's changed or not. I still want nothing to do with her." The next day, after Raymond left for work, Betty entered her sister's room. "Hey, pregnant woman, why are you still sleeping? Get up!" she exclaimed, holding out a tray with warm tea and scrambled eggs. Becky, surprised, said, "Thanks, big sister. How did you know I was hungry?" She gratefully accepted the food and ate it. A few hours later, Becky began to feel strange movements in her stomach. As she tried to get up, she suddenly fainted and was rushed to the hospital. Raymond rushed from the office to the hospital, where the doctor delivered the devastating news. "I'm so sorry, sir," the doctor said gently. "We tried our best, but your wife lost the pregnancy." Tears welled up in Raymond's eyes as he struggled to process the heartbreaking news. However, the doctor reassured him to stay strong, reminding him that God would bless them with another child. Feeling a mixture of grief and determination, Raymond hurried home to gather some essentials for his wife's hospital stay. The doctor had asked him to get his wife some food and clothes, explaining that they would need to monitor her for a week before she could go home. As he stepped into the house, Raymond was greeted by the sight of Betty at the dining table, calmly eating her meal. "Would you like to eat, Raymond?" she asked kindly. Raymond shook his head, his appetite dampened by the weight of the news. "I'm not hungry," he mumbled, his thoughts consumed by his wife's condition. But Betty was persistent, coaxing him gently until he finally relented. With a sigh, Raymond allowed Betty to fetch him some food from the kitchen. After eating, Raymond felt torn between going back to the hospital and staying home. Though he planned to rush to his wife's side, he found himself hesitating. A strange warmth towards Becky emerged within him, leading him to decide to stay home with her instead. His feelings for Becky were changing, and he couldn't quite understand why. Meanwhile, Becky grew increasingly hungry as she waited for her husband to return. Despite calling him several times, he didn't pick up. She then tried reaching out to her sister, who also didn't answer. Finally, she contacted her friend Linda, who promptly went to Becky's house. Upon arriving, Linda was stunned by what she discovered in Becky's master bedroom. Both Becky and Betty were lying on the same bed. Raymond had instructed Linda not to reveal this to his wife, threatening to fire her husband, who worked at his company, if she did. Shocked and surprised, Linda quietly gathered Becky's clothes and prepared some food before leaving. Feeling surprised and shocked by what she had witnessed, Linda couldn't understand the sudden change in Raymond's behavior. Though he is traditionally married to Betty, but he had vowed to have nothing to do with her. This left Linda wondering about the complexities of their relationship. When Linda arrived at the hospital, Becky's first question was about her husband's whereabouts. Linda sympathetically explained that he wasn't feeling well, which is why he couldn't make it to the hospital. Becky's worry grew. Okay, but what about his phone? Why didn't he pick up? And what about Betty? Is she sick too? Linda, sensing Becky's anxiety, reassured her. Becky, you should try not to worry too much. Let them handle their own matters for now. Focus on your own health and recovery. Becky nodded, trying to calm herself down, but her mind was racing with worry. Linda stayed with her for a while, providing comfort and support. As they sat together, Becky couldn't shake off the feeling of unease about her husband and sister. I just hope everything is okay, she whispered to herself, her eyes filled with concern. Linda squeezed her hand reassuringly. Don't worry, Becky. Everything will work out in the end. You just need to focus on getting better, she said with a gentle smile. Becky nodded, grateful for Linda's presence. Finally, the date came for Becky to be discharged. Raymond reluctantly came to take her home. He was supposed to come early but arrived late. Becky didn't want to ask him why he was late. When they got home, Becky was shocked by the way Betty welcomed her with an angry face. This was the same person who apologized to her a few days ago. 1 week after Becky was discharged from the hospital, Raymond called her and said, Becky, I know this might sound a little bit surprising to you, but I just want to let you know that I have decided to keep Betty as my second wife. I know this is not what you were expecting to hear from me, but I'm sorry. Becky replied, You don't have to be sorry, Raymond. I already suspected this while I was still in the hospital. Because you suddenly changed. You even find it difficult to pick up my calls. It's fine. After all, she is your wife traditionally. You paid both our bride prices. It's fine, Ray. I'm good. Thanks for this information, sir, she said, laughing, but deep down, she was sad. As Becky faced the growing distance between her and Raymond, she noticed big changes in their relationship. Raymond became cold and distant. He stopped giving her money for food and other things and avoided spending time with her. Instead, he was always with Betty, making Becky feel lonely. Raymond's absence from their bed made Becky feel even more alone. Every night she wished he was beside her, but he wasn't there. This reminded her of how much their relationship had changed. Day by day, Becky felt more frustrated. She couldn't understand why things had changed so much. Wanting to take charge of her life, she told Raymond she'd find a job to support herself. Raymond's response was hurtful. He didn't care about her struggles and made it clear that Betty was his #1 priority now. This left Becky feeling abandoned and hurt. Despite the pain, Becky decided to move forward. She knew she had to be strong and independent. With resilience in her heart, Becky started searching for job opportunities in the city. She applied to various places, determined to secure a source of income for herself. Each rejection letter only fueled her determination to keep trying. Finally, after weeks of searching, Becky received a call for an interview. Excited and nervous, She prepared herself as best as she could. On the day of the interview, she put on her best attire and headed to the company's office, ready to showcase her skills and dedication. During the interview, Becky impressed the hiring manager with her confidence and passion. She answered every question with poise and demonstrated her willingness to learn and grow. A few days later, Becky received the news she had been waiting for. She got the job. Overjoyed, she couldn't wait to share the good news with her husband and her best friend, Linda. Becky started her new role with dedication, putting in her best efforts to contribute to the company's growth. 6 months later, her boss called her into his office with surprising news. She had been promoted to the position of managing director. Overwhelmed with joy, Becky could hardly believe it. But her boss wasn't finished yet. He also handed her the keys to a brand new car and tripled her salary. Eager to share her joy, Becky tried calling her husband, but he didn't answer. Instead, she excitedly shared the news with Linda, who couldn't contain her excitement. Linda joked about celebrating Becky's success with a weekend outing, all expenses covered by her. When Becky got home, she eagerly shared her news with her husband, saying, "Honey, I have some incredible news. I have been promoted today." Raymond, feeling unconcerned, said, "So this is the good news? I thought you were going to tell me that you are pregnant." He continued, "Let's be serious here, Becky. When are you going to give me a child?" Becky, feeling sad, replied, "God's time is the best." Raymond warned, "The time better be now, or I will send you out of my house." Becky, defensive, retorted, "What about Betty? Isn't she your wife too? Why don't you get her pregnant and leave me alone? Besides, I am far better than her. At least I've been pregnant for you before. Why don't you focus on your favorite for a change? You are just a joy killer, Raymond." She hissed and walked away. Becky went out on a weekend with her friend to celebrate her promotion. When she got back at night, she was surprised to see her belongings outside. Raymond was standing by the door. She asked him what was going on, and he simply replied, "I am tired of this marriage. You call yourself a married woman, but just look at the time you are coming home from clubbing. What kind of a wife are you?" Becky, surprised, said, "But you approved it, honey. I took permission from you before leaving the house, and you willingly said I should have fun." Raymond snapped back, "I said I am done, Becky. This thing called marriage is not working and won't work. Can't you see how I have been treating you? Don't you get tired of suffering and enduring my maltreatment towards you? Please go and never come back." Betty was there, but she didn't do anything. Of course, this is what she has been waiting for. Now she can have Raymond to herself. Though Becky tried to beg her husband to forgive her, he refused, saying that he has made up his mind and he was done with her. So Becky left and went to Linda's house. Few weeks later, she got her own apartment and moved in. After Becky left, Betty's behavior changed drastically. She stopped cooking and cleaning, coming and going out as she pleased. At first, Raymond didn't say anything, but as Betty's late nights and frequent visits to the village continued, he grew increasingly frustrated. When he finally confronted her, Betty dismissed his concerns, saying, "I'm not Becky. You can't control me. I've always wanted this lifestyle, and I won't be like your ex-wife." Betty's dismissal left Raymond feeling confused and upset, realizing their marriage might never improve. Meanwhile, at work, Becky's boss, Jason, started showing her extra attention. He often praised her work and went out of his way to help her with projects. Over time, Becky noticed his admiration and began to see him in a different light. They started spending more time together, grabbing lunch or coffee during breaks. One day, Jason confessed his feelings to Becky. He admitted that he was attracted to her and wanted to explore a romantic relationship. Becky was surprised but flattered by his honesty. She agreed to take things slow and see where it led. After some time, Becky finally agreed, and they started dating. A few weeks later, Jason proposed to her, and Becky gladly accepted. Their wedding date was fixed, and they began planning their future together. One day, as Raymond left home for work, leaving Betty with her father, Mr. Obi. While driving to work, he realized he had forgotten an important document. He reversed and started driving back home. Instead of driving directly to his compound, he decided to park at his neighbor's house and walked into his house. As he was about to enter, he overheard Betty and her father talking about her pregnancy. Meanwhile, she had not told Raymond about it. They also discussed defrauding him and running away with his money. What shocked Raymond the most was hearing that Mr. Obi was responsible for Betty's pregnancy. He couldn't believe his eyes. This deceit had been ongoing for years, completely unnoticed by anyone. It was this secret affair that explained Obi's favoritism towards Betty over Becky. When Raymond finally had enough of their deceitful games, he couldn't contain his frustration any longer. With determination, he approached them, and their stunned expressions said it all. He confronted them, revealing that he had overheard every word of their conversation. "So, Betty, this is who you truly are. You have been having an affair with your father for years. Now it all makes sense why you're so eager to visit the village every weekend, to meet your sugar daddy, isn't it?" Raymond exclaimed, his voice filled with disbelief and disappointment. "Betty, I'm beyond disappointed in you. I can't help but regret the day I agreed to marry you before Becky. What a mess I've found myself in," he lamented, shaking his head in disbelief. Then, turning to Mr. Obi with contempt, he exclaimed, "You must be the most shameless man alive. How could you betray the person you claim to love as your own?" Obi, visibly taken aback, began to explain. "My dear son-in-law, Betty isn't actually my biological daughter." Becky, stunned by this revelation, listened intently as Obi continued his explanation. "You see, my wife and I struggled with infertility for 10 long years. When we couldn't conceive, we decided to adopt Betty. However, just a year after her adoption, a miracle happened. My wife became pregnant with Becky. With the arrival of our biological daughter, my wife's attention shifted, and Betty felt neglected. Out of compassion, I vowed to always love her unconditionally, even more than my own wife and daughter. It's all my fault. Betty is innocent in all of this." Betty, now in tears, struggled to comprehend the truth about her identity and her father's deception. Raymond, seething with anger, declared, "Enough of this madness. I'm utterly fed up with both of you. What kind of woman have I allowed into my life?" He stormed upstairs, packed Betty's belongings, and demanded that she and her shameless father leave his house immediately and never return. With tearful eyes, Betty and her father left Raymond's house, overwhelmed by the consequences of their deceitful actions. Now, filled with remorse and regret, Raymond sought out his estranged wife, Becky, in a desperate attempt to make amends and win her back. As he arrived at Linda's house, he was met with shocking news. Becky's wedding was set to take place the following week. The weight of his mistake has hit him hard, leaving him overwhelmed with disappointment in himself for allowing the devil to manipulate him against the only woman who had ever truly loved him. Tears welled up in his eyes as he wished desperately for the chance to turn back time and undo the pain he had caused his beloved wife. But it was too late. Dear viewers, are you intrigued to learn more about the fate of Betty and Mr. Obi? Do you wonder if Betty chose to keep the pregnancy, and how Mr. Obi's wife, Amara, and the villagers reacted upon discovering Obi's illicit affair with his own daughter? Share your thoughts below, subscribe for updates, and remember to activate your notification bell to catch the thrilling conclusion of this captivating tale.